Why is evangelism declining in churches all around the world? Well, there are many factors causing the decline in believers sharing their faith. One of them is that globalism has created many isms in the world. There's pluralism, there's relativism, there's secularism. And as a result, there's a lot of social pressure to not talk about your faith, particularly as the only way to the Father. At the same time, there are a lot of people who are afraid to talk about Jesus. While they're afraid to talk about Jesus, many Christians are, they don't feel any hesitation to promote their political views on social media and everywhere else. They talk about politics. They're not afraid of offending people with their political opinions, but they're afraid of offending people with the gospel. They're afraid of being accused of being narrow-minded if they share the gospel. How does that make sense? They gossip about everything except gossiping the gospel. Another reason for the decline in outreach and evangelism is that churches have stopped training their members in how to share their faith. We're going to correct that in finishing the task. There are very few churches that have any regular ongoing program for teaching people how to share their faith in a natural, simple, easy way, and actually going out and sharing their faith together. That's tragic. The Bible says in 1 Peter 3:15, always be ready and prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. It says we're to always be ready to give an answer for anybody asks for the hope that you have. But it says, the rest of the verse says, do it with gentleness and respect. You know, some Christians share the good news in a way that just sounds like bad news. We're good and you're bad. We're saved, you're the sinner. In other words, Peter is saying you need to be prepared to share the good news, not the bad news, and you need to do it in a natural way. Now, another reason for the decrease in sharing our faith and in evangelism is because the older a congregation becomes, listen to this, the less evangelistic and the more internally focused it becomes. Let me say that again. The older a congregation becomes, the more self-centered it becomes. And what started out as a church trying to be evangelistic and win the lost and reach out to the community deteriorates into a place to meet the needs of the members. And people forget that the number one task that Jesus gave the church is to share the good news. There was an archbishop from a previous generation who said, the church is the only organization that exists for the benefit of the non-member. You ever thought about that? That's the way Jesus planned it. The church exists for the people not in it yet. So what we need today is a corrective, a re-emphasis on this fifth purpose, the one purpose that gets ignored all the time. We worship, we fellowship, we disciple, we serve. But this one is desperately needed. And people today don't realize how lost the people around them really are. You see, here's the problem. The longer you're a Christian, the more you forget how bad you felt before you came to Christ. And the more you forget how good the good news really is. And you become out of commission with the Great Commission. Out of commission with the Great Commission. We intend to remedy that through a series of training seminars and campaigns that will equip your church for all five purposes.